96.7 KCAL rocks. It is Thursday, and he is back. Our guy, Pep, to do some sports. What is up, Pep?
Man, it feels so good to be back. And first off, the NFL never ceases to amaze me. Like, I feel like every single week I've seen it all. I've watched football for a long time. I've been a big fan. And every single week, the NFL delivers something new. And guys, we had Wednesday afternoon NFL football as the Steelers stayed undefeated. They're a perfect 11-0 as they beat a shorthanded Ravens team 19-14, but still pretty awesome to watch NFL on a Wednesday afternoon.
With Robert Griffin III throwing the ball to Des Bryant.
I know. And then that happened, so it's weird to be in a time warp of those two players hooking up. But then also RG3 not doing great, and McSorley coming in and throwing the ball around. I teased my son. I was like, they finally got a quarterback who can throw.
Oh my God. Yeah, Trace McSorley. I'm like, I know I've heard of that guy. Let me look him up real quick. And he was a Penn State quarterback. But yeah, like, man, what year is this? Like, what is going on? Like, what happened? But yeah, we had Wednesday afternoon football, and because there's football teams dealing with, positive COVID cases. So everyone's having to, pivot and be flexible with their schedule. So Steelers-Ravens was supposed to be Thanksgiving night, right? So they moved it a couple times. They played Wednesday afternoon. In fact, the Ravens were supposed to play the Cowboys tonight. That was Thursday night football. That game was pushed to Tuesday. The Steelers are playing Washington. That game was pushed to Monday afternoon here on the West Coast. So if you like afternoon football and you want to play hooky from work, we got Steelers and Washington on Monday afternoon. And then also, the 49ers are playing 2 home games in Arizona because of strict laws up in the Bay Area.
That's right. Arizona, they are in for the time being. That's like what they're going to operate out of. I think in the time it is, as weird as it is with weird days, and I know it's tough on players to play on a Wednesday or whatever, they are getting these games in.
Say what you want about the NFL, but they're finding a way. They're trying to do it safely, right? So if there's a, I guess they considered an outbreak. I think Baltimore is what they considered an outbreak. They found ways to keep the players safe, keep them away from each other, keep them out of the facility. But how do we make the schedule still work? How do we get an entire season still in? And they've done it so far. What is this, like week maybe 11, 12, something like that?
12?
I think we're going into week 12, and that's, to have gotten this far in the season, and let's not forget, the NFL does have a contingency plan. They could go with a week 18, and then they were going to let in 2 extra playoff teams, and that's if they ever needed to cancel any games. But here we are, 12 weeks into the season, a lot further than a lot of us thought we'd get to, and they haven't canceled a single game. They have done the shell game like crazy, moved stuff everywhere. They're going to continue to do that as much as they can, but it seems like if they don't have to do their contingency plan, they're not going to do it.
Yes, even with pressure to go into a bubble. Goodell comes out and says no.
Yeah, no, you guys are both right. They're finding a way. They are, again, moving games around so that, like we've seen the Thanksgiving game with the Ravens and Steelers. They're moving games around, and yes, it has a little bit of a domino effect, on future games. But they're still making it work at this point. And you're right, 40. The schedule was built in advance so that they could have, if we need to cancel a game, if we need to make a game up later in the season, we're going to add playoff teams. Like, it was built knowing that, hey, this is not going to be perfect, and it might get a little messy, but it's built to make it work and get through the year.
And then 40, it seems like that's the room that college football does not have.
No, yeah, college football is hurting right there. The one thing that's going to be really funny, by the time this NFL season is over, to look back at the headlines that will have happened throughout the year with Wednesday afternoon football, with people like RG3 getting in there, Alex Smith coming back into the league, and then the Denver Broncos having to play a full game with 0 quarterbacks. The San Francisco 49ers playing home games in Arizona. It is going to be the weirdest year ever for football.
For sure. 2020 will be a verb.
It will. Like, we're going to look back and be like, man, remember that year? Like, that was so crazy. Hopefully we don't repeat ourselves.
I think maybe that's just what I'm finding entertaining as an Eagle fan, where, like, my team is terrible, so I am just, like, finding entertainment in just the wackiness of this whole year.
That's right.
Yeah, the fact that the Eagles have, 3 wins, and they're still in the race for the division title.
don't leave out that half win. Don't leave out our tie.
Hey,
And
it could come down to that half win.
Oh, absolutely.
That could be the difference between getting in, baby.
Hey, 40, you mentioned college football. If I could, switch gears real quick. You mentioned college football, and right now the college football playoff, which comes out every Tuesday, they tell you the top 4 teams in the country that would go to the national semifinals, and the winners would go on to the finals. Of course, it's Alabama, Notre Dame, Clemson, and Ohio State. And I just saw that Ohio State needs to get in so many games to get to their Big Ten championship. So they might, depending on how many games they get in, they might eliminate themselves from the college football playoff.
Am I the only one that's surprised that Notre Dame is just totally in the mix all of a sudden? I know it's a weird year, but all those teams sound like, yeah, Notre Dame?
Well, they're also saying that if you are one of these schools who is a big rival to Ohio State, and now for Ohio State to get in the playoffs, they need so many games, they need you. What if you're just like, hey, sorry, COVID, you guys ain't making the playoffs. There goes your recruits for a whole year if you guys making the play. Like, you could totally game your rival here.
Yeah, that is a lot of power.
Who's number 5? Is it Texas A&M? Maybe Texas A&M's reaching out to whoever Ohio State's supposed to play and said, hey,
exactly.
Yeah. If you guys don't want to play,
send COVID to those schools.
Hey, it's Jimbo Fisher. He knows what to do now at Texas A&M.
I know it's a long shot, but if you're a USC football fan, they are undefeated. They are number 20 in the country. I think they're a long shot to sneak into that top 4. They'd have to have a lot of things happen. But they are undefeated. Sure. They're playing pretty good football. They got Washington State on Sunday, and that game was moved because of COVID as well.
Oh, boy.
Man, college football. Again, the headlines coming out, the fact that, the number 4 team in college football is just trying to get the bare minimum of games in.
Right.
This year. It's fun for sports.
And remember this too. The Big Ten and the Pac-12, they started very late because they were very hesitant. They had said they're not going to play, and then they reversed course, and they tried to put together a season and squish it into a short time frame. This is what happens. You don't have a lot of wiggle room. You didn't start early like the SEC, like almost on time, or the Big 12. Like they've got their hands tied right now in the Big Ten.
Yeah, dude. They're already in the SEC. One thing that Dabo Swinney did kind of stick his foot in his mouth a little bit when one game did get canceled against Clemson. I believe it was against Michigan State. And he said, I think they're using COVID to not play us. You know what I mean? And the Michigan State, or it was Florida State. The coach had a great response. He said, coaches aren't doctors.
Right.
Yeah. And that just basically ended the conversation.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I heard Dabo Swinney say that from Clemson, and because they want to play. I mean, they're the ACC. They've been playing all season long, and they want to find a way to play. And guys, finally this morning, NBA training camps have already started. We just wrapped up the bubble, and here we are getting ready to start the new season, which the first games would be December 22nd. And that first night, we get Lakers-Clippers. How about that for opening night in the NBA? But what I want to touch on is money. Straight cash homie, because LeBron James, a 2-year, $85 million extension. And guys, we wake up this morning on a Thursday, and we're seeing Anthony Davis is close to finalizing a deal. 5 years, $190 million.
Look how good the Lakers and especially LeBron and AD are looking. They get these big contracts, and they get to play the Lakers and have the ring ceremony in their face. First game. Wow.
Dude, yeah, I know, right? The Lakers, listen, even when the Clippers are good and the Lakers are bad, the Lakers still run the town. Like, everyone's still talking about the Lakers. So the fact that they're good again, they won the NBA championship in the bubble, they're going to play the Clippers on opening night, they're going to do the whole thing. Yeah, that's just kind of like throwing salt in the wound for all you Clippers fans. And then in the offseason, the Lakers bulked up. They added a bunch of new great guys, and the Clippers were really kind of quiet. They got a new head coach in Ty Lue, but they've been kind of quiet.
Repeat?
Yeah, the Lakers, they built up, and then there's some talk now, too, with the extension that LeBron James did, that it kind of puts him right around that same time window. Now, things would have to change, and some circumstances would have to change, but it could be the same time window of Bronny leaving high school and possibly going to the NBA if they were to change that rule. So they're saying that might have been some of the motivation of LeBron to extend his contract out to that year.
Yeah, I saw that, 40. I guess we're assuming his son is going to be good enough to play in the NBA. I mean, he's already great. Like, he's a great high school player. But we're already assuming, he's going to be good enough to be in the NBA. He's going to play with his dad.
Right. It's assuming that, his career is going to take off. It's assuming that certain league rules change. It's assuming that the Lakers would, potentially have a, spot to go after him or whatever. But they are talking about those two potentially being on the same team or even just being in the league together.
If LeBron does that, he has done everything. It's incredible. In the NBA, unheard of. I mean, baseball, it has been done because you can play baseball forever. You cannot do it in the NBA, let alone, look how old he is, and he's still the best player in the league.
Unreal.
It's unreal, right, Pep?
It could happen, but it could happen. Like, it's a real possibility.
Pep, tell me how to get your stuff.
Hey, we're still doing it on Inland Sports. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We got the YouTube channel as well, interviewing local coaches. We got CBU and UCR basketball right now, so there is local sports right here in the Inland Empire happening.
Yeah, baby. Thanks, Pep.
So good to have Pep back.